Hello, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Wingarvacio, and today we're going to be covering Chapter 4, Lesson 4.2, Solving Inequalities Using Addition or Subtraction. Again, solving an inequality is very, very similar to solving an equation. So if you remember in Chapter 3, we were solving for the variable. So we're going to be doing the same thing today, except this time with an equal sign, we have an inequality. Reference pages to this could be found in your Google Classroom under 4.2, pages 132 and 133. Okay, let's get started. So as I mentioned, solving an inequality is very similar to Chapter 3, solving an equation. You want to get the x or the variable by itself by isolating the numbers that's attached to it. So let's look at our problem. We have here x minus 5 is less than negative 3. So to solve this, you want to isolate the variable and get the variable by itself. What seems to be in the way? It looks like the negative 5. So what we're going to do, just like in the last chapter, we're going to get rid of it by doing the inverse operation. So we're going to do add 5 to this side. If you do it to this side, we do it to the other side. Notice the other side now is not an equal sign, but we have now in place of an equal sign, we have an inequality. So be careful, okay? Now, same thing though we did in our last chapter. We want to solve this, so we want to cancel this side because a negative 5 plus 5 is 0. So x is, and we'll leave this blank for now. What's a negative 3 plus 5? Negative 3 plus 5 is 2 because the signs are different. I'm going to subtract and carry the sign of the larger number. Now, normally we put an equal sign here, but because we're solving an inequality today, we're going to go ahead and just drop down the sign that it has, which is the less than. And that completes your answer. So this would be your answer. X is less than 2. Now, remember in our last lesson, 4.1, we learned when to open our graph and when to close our graph. So if you look at this inequality, there's no equal sign, so our graph is going to be an open circle. So open. Okay, now also something you need to check for is your variable on the correct side? It should always be on the left side. Is it? Check. Since it's on the left side, we're ready to graph. So let's go ahead and make our number line. We have here 0. We have here 2. Always use the opposite of both numbers, 2, and the opposite of 2 is negative 2. Now, we said it's an open, so we're going to go to 2 and make an open. Now, which way is this inequality facing? It's facing towards the left. So do you notice the inequality looks like an arrow and it's pointing towards the left? So we're going to make this inequality point towards the left, and that completes your graph. That's it. Okay? Again, solving an inequality is very similar to solving an equation. You do the same thing like you would in an equation, except instead of an equal sign, you have an inequality and you have to graph. Let's go ahead and have you try examples 1, 2, and 3. There are some decimals now here in this one and fractions to try, so be careful. Okay, so pause the video, solve the problems, and make sure you do this on a separate sheet of paper. All right, example 2. In example 2, now we're going to, instead of add, we're going to subtract. So same idea. How do you get x or the variable by itself? You want to isolate it by getting rid of the numbers that are attached to it. I see a positive 14 attached to it. So I'm going to get rid of it by doing the inverse, which is negative 14. What I do to one side, I do to the other side of not the equation, but the inequality now. So I subtract 14 to this side. And then now you have 14 minus 14 is 0. We don't need that 0, so we have x. Bring down our inequality. We can go ahead and just bring it down right now. I'll use another color so you can see. Again, normally would have an equal sign, but since we're not dealing with equations, we'll just drop that inequality. Okay, 13 minus 14. What is 13 minus 14? That is negative 1. We're short 1, so it's a negative 1. Now, we need to look to see, is the variable on the correct side? I see x is on this side. It should be on this side. So I'm going to rearrange it. Remember, x or the variable should always be on the left side. The left side, okay? So we're going to go ahead and rearrange it, put x here, and all I'm going to do is put the 1 or the negative 1 on the other side. Now, since we rearranged it, it changed this sign because in this original one, the inequality is eating or facing the x. So we need to make it facing the x as well when we rewrite it. Now, this answer on top right here, I'm going to go ahead and circle this or box this. This answer and this answer, they're both the same answer. This answer here, right here, that I have in the star, it's just easier to use when you're graphing. Again, always have your variable on the left side. It makes it easier to graph. Now, if you look at my inequality, it looks like the inequality is facing towards the right, like an arrow right here. So when I do my graph, I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 in the middle, put a 1 here, and a negative. Again, always use the numbers that they're using, so 1 and negative 1. One of each, one of opposites. Now, I'm going to go to my negative, and I'm going to open that, but then also I noticed there's an equal sign here, so I'm going to close it. We color it because there's an equal sign at the bottom right here. And which way do I go? This arrow says it's pointing towards it's like an arrow to the right, so I'm going to make it point towards the right. And that's it. Okay? All right, I would like for you to go ahead and pause the video and try problems 4, 5, and 6, and then write your answers on that same page. All right, exit ticket. Go ahead and solve the following problem below. If you completed the questions before 1 through 6, it was? Yes, 1 through 6, you should be able to have an idea of how to solve this exit ticket. Go ahead and pause the video, write down your answer, and if you have any questions from today's video, feel free to jot it down and ask me tomorrow. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.